Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about White Sand by Brandon Sanderson. So this is going to be basically my review of the graphic audio adaptation because I know there's multiple adaptations. So I haven't read the prose version and I haven't finished the complete omnibus. I only read basically the new intro that introduces Chris earlier. So I don't have any of the knowledge of the other, minor subtle changes they may have made or updated or anything like that. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and if you're interested, you can check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. So, let's begin. So, White Sand. White Sand is one of the early Cosmere books. It takes place on the shard world of Taldane, which is a tidally locked planet, which is stuck between a white dwarf, and a white giant, I believe. I can't remember which types of stars, but essentially, the planet is trapped between these two different stars. So the planet doesn't rotate at all. So as a result, the formation of the planet has resulted in one side that is perpetually shrouded in darkness and like kind of twilight, kind of a late evening kind of look, and then the day side, as they call it, is forever covered in perpetual sunlight, like just constantly beaming sunlight. And as a result, the investiture that comes from the sun has basically adapted on the earth or the planet in such a way that the sand on day side becomes invested, and some of the people on that side are capable of manipulating the sand through a invested art called sand mastery. So even without having read the White Sand graphic novels or anything like that, I kind of knew about it, like just kind of a osmosis of the Sanderson fandom community. So I've already kind of known about the idea of sand mastery and stuff. So I've already integrated it into some of my thoughts about the way the greater magic systems and stuff kind of work and integrate with each other. But I was really looking forward to reading this book because I assumed we would get a lot more information about it. So I was disappointed to find that basically everything I had already learned just through, fandom osmosis is basically, I knew everything already, essentially. I didn't need to really learn much else. Sorry for the lighting and stuff. As you can see, there's sunbeams coming in my room, and I'm probably going to be just bombarded with light like this, like oh sorry, yeah, but yeah, but so I felt like I kind of already knew everything about White Sand even before I started it. So when I got into it, I was kind of disappointed that the story didn't kind of go off in any directions that I expected it to, or any direction other than what I expected it to, I guess I'll say. So this is probably the lowest rated Cosmere book of the entire Cosmere collection. I think the reception of it is probably tied with something like Frugal Wizards, but that's not in the Cosmere, so it doesn't, beat out this as the lowest rated one. But it's kind of a general consensus in the fandom that this is, early Brandon. This is before he really got, hit his stride and stuff and was able to make some incredible fantasy stuff. He was still, working it all out or whatever. But this is kind of unique in that it was adapted into a graphic novel and was basically adapted by a different writer. Rick Hoskin was the one who basically took Brandon's prose version and adapted those words and the world and stuff into a graphic novel version, and then it was later adapted again into a graphic audio version. So there's probably like multiple degrees of changes that I experience in my read through than most people have. But ultimately, my general consensus on the story is that it falls very flat. It's quite boring. Some of the characters that we get are interesting, like Chris and stuff, but my enjoyment of the character of Chris is entirely influenced by the fact that I know of her and know her from other books later in the timeline. So my enjoyment of her is not purely from this book, because quite frankly, in this book, she was like she was almost a nothing character. Like she was just kind of, yeah, she was just very shallow of a character in general. I kind of expected a lot more of the scholarly side of her, like being more in control of that kind of idea. Like I don't know, I guess I kind of expected this story in a way to be like her origin to becoming a Cosmere scholar. And I guess in some ways it is, but it's not nearly as in depth as I was hoping. So if I didn't know anything about White Sand as, a Cosmere book, or didn't know anything about, sand mastery or anything like that, if I was able to go into this completely blank, completely ignorant, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more than I did. Because ultimately the story is perfectly fine. It's just kind of shallow. It's just kind of, it's a little underwhelming for what we have come to expect from Brandon. But if anyone else had written this, I think it would have, been perfectly fine. It would have been perfectly serviceable. But again, because of the standard that we often have for Sanderson work, this falls kind of flat for me. It also has this issue that some of Brandon's other work has for me, in that the plot that we're giving is so much less interesting than the information about what leads up to the beginning of the plot. Like all the information that, is background and, groundwork and stuff for the events that happen in the graphic novel, I think are so much more interesting than what we actually get in the heart of the story. So everything that happened before it, interesting. The plot that we actually get, quite boring. And then the stuff that's supposed to happen after the story that we get is also much more interesting than the story we got. So I think it's just an odd bit of story to pick and, flesh out essentially. So I just didn't really care for it all that much. So yeah, let's go ahead and go into spoilers so I can get a little more specific about some of the things I didn't care for. So yeah, spoilers for White Sand. In White Sand, as I already said, I didn't really care for it, mostly because all the stuff about the DM and everything, and about the way they work and the debts they accrued, and the way they were basically extorting the other professions and stuff like that. I really would have liked to have seen that play out. I really would have liked to have seen a story where the DM was in its strength and it was a known quantity of like culture and stuff like that. So we can kind of integrate into what this organization is and what it means for the world and what it means on this side of the world. And we can kind of understand the politicking from the perspective of it actually having happened and not somebody being saddled with the debts essentially of someone before them, their predecessor. So that just kind of like, it just came off as very boring to me. I would have much rather see the manipulation and stuff that was happening with the other maestros and the other leaders of the professions, and how they were getting them to like pay the tribute, and like how they were just abusing their power to just kind of take stuff. I would have liked to have seen that in action. So it just is very disappointing to only have ever heard about it. And then the entire action of what Kenton is trying to do throughout the story is very boring to me, because as I said already, I understand White Sand from a meta contextual level, from a, Sanderson fandom osmosis kind of perspective. So when I hear about like he needs to go collect these votes in order to make sure the DM isn't disbanded and stuff like that, I have like no sense of stakes, because I know that this, as a magic system and as a culture of an invested art on the planet that Brandon has plans to revisit, I know that that's not going to get wiped out. So I have no ability to like fall into the plot and feel like, oh, he might actually lose the DM and they might actually get disbanded, and maybe Sand Mastery will go away if no one ever teaches it again or something like that. So like, I have none of that. So I'm just kind of like, okay, he's just got to go run around and ask these people to provide their votes. And like, even when he does this, like there is no tension on whether or not he's going to be able to get these votes, because again, on a meta contextual level, he has to get the votes because the DM can't be disbanded. So it's like, ugh, I don't care about any of these conversations. I don't care about any of this stuff. And the only interesting twist in it that happens is Kenton thinks that they owe, 70,000 lakh, but it's actually a debt that was like owed to them because of some manipulation of past masters and past people in other professions and stuff. So I thought that was interesting, but it wasn't even resolved in any kind of useful way. And then when we started to kind of get to the point where Chris is basically trying to help him negotiate different ways that they can get support and stuff, with the idea that he wants to use the Mastros in the future as a benefit to the other professions, and actually, because they don't have like this big combat component to them anymore, because it's not really necessary. So to have them be more altruistic and just, helpful and stuff, and use the unique abilities of Sand Mastery to like help other people do stuff, all they have to do is like charge for some of that labor, really, and they can basically help bolster the entire society. But they had like kind of this religious connotation to it, that like Sand Mastery can't be used for like mundane stuff, because it's, it makes it feel less amazing and less, awe inspiring and stuff. So, but like, that's just obviously stupid. Like, it's just, I mean, to a degree, that's a real thing, but like on a context, not even just on a, societal level, just understanding their placement in society and stuff is just stupid to kind of try to hoard it in that way. So it's, whatever. So it makes sense that that would be, pushed, but we don't get too much detail on it. Like, we get the one explanation of Kursala explaining it to the guy, but like, we don't get any like examples of it being put into place. We don't get to see it really work out. which is something that would have been far more entertaining to me than Kenton running around avoiding assassins and freaking trying to get votes. I would have much rather actually see like him try to usher that policy into the DM and have everybody like pushing back against him and stuff, while some embracing it and some like fostering other deals that are far more shady and stuff behind everybody's eyes and stuff. Like that plot could have been a lot more entertaining than just, you know, Kenton avoiding assassins and stuff. And the thing that the main lady, whose name I can't remember, does when she has the track to basically following Kenton to be a spy and stuff, and she eventually gives her vote to her, I'm like, that was the most clear telegraph thing ever to me, because it was obvious, like from the first conversation when she's assigned, she was like, I'm not going to basically become friends with him. I'm not going to, you know, eventually see his side or anything like that. She was so sure of her own prejudices and that kind of thing. But then, of course, at the end, she has to vote for them because, like, she's, you know, basically been helped and, like, she was changed. Like, despite saying, oh, I'm not going to change the way I feel about it and stuff, because it's a very, you know, firm held religious conviction as to why she doesn't like the Sandmasters. But, like, of course, you spend any time with anybody that you have a prejudice against with, you're going to learn that the prejudice is BS. So, of course, that happened. So, it's just, it comes off as disappointing because there's so many really fun pieces here, but it's used in this mundane, basic, just kind of lame way, and it just kind of disappoints. It's very indicative of Brandon's early writing, because there's a lot of issues that I have with White Sand that are similar to the issues that I have in Elantris. So I think it's just kind of this period of time of Brandon's writing that it just kind of comes through, like, you know, regardless. So I think it's just, you know, it's just kind of disappointing, but it's another one of those Cosmere things that I'm really happy that I did brush up on, because there's a character in here that I know is mentioned later, because he becomes a world hopper. He's mentioned somewhere in Stormlight. So having context of who that character is now makes them being a world hopper later more fun. So I guess I can play with that idea of it, I guess, you know. So ultimately, White Sand, not that great. I really hope Brandon really does return to Taldane and kind of give us a more fleshed out, interesting story. Either something on Dark Side with the or Night Side, Day Side, like Night Side. I guess Dark Side. Dark Side and Day Side is weird to me, but whatever. Like with the star marks and that kind of stuff, because I've seen podcasts and stuff, people talk about that or whatever. Like the whatever the magic system on the other side of the planet is, it's clearly far more subtle, because Chris probably would have studied it already. So I'd be interested to know about that. But again, I'd rather have these things established and known than, you know, just be completely wiped out when we first see them, kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. I think White Sand is very fascinating with a lot of interesting pieces, but ultimately the overall product just left me kind of disappointed. It fell pretty much flat for me. I don't think it's very entertaining, especially in comparison to later Brandon stuff. So yeah, I probably won't revisit it until there's like a sequel or something to it. But yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and leave it there. So let me know in the comments down below, what did you all think of White Sand? Do you agree with me that it's one of the more disappointing things of the Cosmere because Brandon's, you know, his early works, you know? So let me know about that in the comments down below. Any of your opinions on it. What do you think about Sand Mastery? Do you think it is bone spores or anything like that? So yeah. All right, with that being said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and check out the Patreon if you're interested. The link is in the description. So I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.